All right, so welcome everybody. We are on our next, what did we call this? This Fresh Living Magazine Come to Life. So we're doing our next segment here with the beautiful Trish Richardson. She is our Master T-TAP trainer and a Fresh Start certified coach. She has a beautiful website, Be Youthful and Fit, if I'm saying that right. Trish has been doing T-TAP. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about that, but she's been doing that for years now. She's a mom of 9 kids, married to the wonderful Dallas, and has become an amazing mentor and friend of mine. And I'm looking forward to you hearing today the same tips that she shared in our Fresh Living fall issue of our magazine. And I think that these are going to, she called it jazz up your walking. And I think that's exactly what it's going to do, is help us remember that walking can be fun and also get as much as we can out of what sounds like such a simple exercise. We can get more for our health and our bodies from it. So Trish is going to share that with you now. But first, Trish, tell us just a teeny tiny bit about you first.
Okay. Well, as you said, I've been doing T-TAP for 10 years, actually, 10 and a half years. I found it after my youngest son was born. He was about 9.5 pounds, and about month or two after he was born, I weighed just like I gained that 10 pounds back. And I didn't think that was fair. I should have kept that off after I had the baby. So I looked and weighed just what I did right the day before he was born, even though there was no baby there, when he was almost 4 months old. And that's when I found T-TAP. I was doing other workouts and getting more tired, didn't realize I had adrenal issues. And so less truly became more with T-TAP. I'm not an exercise fanatic by any means. I knew I needed to do it to stay healthy and try to lose some weight. And it's one of those things, like, it was hard at first, but it's paid off well. I went on to lose 8 sizes and went from a 22 to a size 8. And at the same time was able to adjust, because with hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue, those things can set you back sometimes, but I knew that if I could keep my body moving, I would feel better, and eventually the inches would continue to come off. And even right now, in that little wonderful time of menopause when things are kind of fluctuating, so I'm up a little bit, but I'm not continuing to gain, and I feel good. And so I just feel like T-TAP has really been not just an inch loss program for me, it has really improved my quality of life. And then I've been a trainer for 5.5 years, which is kind of hysterical considering I didn't really like PE. So here I am. God has a sense of humor. But I love being able to encourage women like me who don't want to spend hours and hours in a gym and maybe have thyroid and adrenal issues, and to do just simple things like what we're going to talk about today, adding into the walk to help you get even more out of it just in your daily activities.
That's awesome. And yeah, I love it when you share your story, Trish, because you show all of us that no matter what our life looks like, no matter what our, what we're coming from, so many of us have so many limitations. And for you, it was hypothyroidism, if I said that right, and adrenal fatigue, and just the motherhood piece. Just, you had a lot of kids you were taking care of at once. And then, of course, what it did to your body physically to give birth to all the kids. I mean, what I'm thinking about, by my 3rd child, I had hyperthyroidism and adrenal fatigue and was on medicines for it, had a goiter and everything. And that was 3 kids. So I can't imagine what your body went through, but you're showing us that T-TAP and simple fitness really works. It betters us. We feel better, and it does help us heal. So, okay, so go ahead and start sharing with us what you brought to the magazine. You brought a few tips on jazzing up our walking.
Sure thing. The first tip that I mentioned in the magazine was toes forward, and I'll use my hands as an example rather than messing with the camera. But a lot of times we walk with our feet kind of ducked out, what we call it, where they're going out. Now, some people are pigeon-toed, but most people, if you just watch people walk, they tend to turn out. Sometimes that's a hip issue. Sometimes it's just the core has gotten weak, and so the feet turn out. So getting the toes forward, if there's not a functional issue going on at your hips, you wouldn't want to force it, obviously, but getting the feet more forward, more toes forward, is going to, first of all, help with alignment, and it's going to help track the knees better. So you might think, oh, no, that makes my knees go in, but actually it'll start to help your knees go out, especially when we get into the next tip. But keeping those toes forward, just doing that. I have my right side where I have something going on. I have had an injury there, so it tends to want to come out just a little bit. So one of the areas I walk had a little sandy area, so I just walked through it, not thinking or looking, and then I looked back and I thought my toes were forward. They were out just a little bit. So I kept going across and across that sandy area, and I felt like in my shoes, my feet were like this. They weren't, but that's how it felt because this became natural. So it feels weird when we do something new, but what we're doing is retraining those muscles to where this feels right, not this. Just because it feels right doesn't always make it right. Obviously, if there's any pain, you don't want to force it, but just the toes forward helped me shave 3/4 of an inch off of each lower thigh and about a 1/2 an inch, 1/4 to 1/2 an inch off of each upper thigh with no other changes. And I was stuck there for a while. And now I knew why, because in my workouts and especially in my walking, because I walked every day, I was getting sloppy. And so the next tip was shifting the weight to the heels as you're walking. Now, obviously, you're not going to be way back because now you're walking in place. You can do this a little bit more, but when you're outside walking, you won't be able to shift way back. But just that little shift of the center of gravity back helps naturally kick in your core and helps get your shoulders back without having to think about it so much. So a lot of times when I maybe don't want to focus so much on all my form when I'm walking, I think toes forward, shift weight back, because that'll take care of a lot of things. So then I can maybe, if I want to think about something, or if I want to listen to a sermon or a message or something I want to listen to on my MP3. And so that's a really, I call it kind of the cheaters, the T-tap cheater thing. Nothing's easy in T-tap. We have to keep our mind in the game the whole time. But that little shifting the weight back just automatically kicks that core in. And again, shifting the weight back, if you would stand up and shift your weight forward to your toes and where the weight comes in on the big toe and then shift all the way back, the toes will automatically jazz a little bit because it keeps you from falling over. It's a counterbalance thing. But your knee will start to track out, so it won't be going pronated in, nor will it be all the way out. It'll just be a nice kind of straight with slightly tracked out, which will equalize the muscle and ligaments on those knees so they're not so prone to tear a meniscus or an ACL. So those two tips right there can help tremendously with knee pain, foot and ankle pain, and that by getting things into alignment. It's all about alignment. The next tip was to get your belly up and in. I know there's this whole thing about whether you tuck your pelvis, don't tuck your pelvis, all that, and I'm not going to get into all that today, but we're not necessarily outside walking, tucking under everything, but we are bringing our belly up and back, not just suck in your gut, because that uses just one set of muscles. We want to get them all, right? We want from stem to stern. We want from the pubic bone all the way up to the rib cage, because you have about 4 layers of muscles there, and you want to get them all. So just sitting there, if you're sitting here listening to this right now, just put your hands down low, kind of wiggle in. If you have some fluff, wiggle under the fluff, just below the bladder area there, and just do a big inhale. And as you exhale, literally push up. And your tummy's doing it too, but that touch is brain to body. It'll kind of say, hey, belly, get with the program here. Then your next big inhale. As you exhale, flatten the hands against the tummy and then just bring the belly button back a little bit to the spine. Again, you're not tucking necessarily. You'll shift the pelvis a little bit, but it's more about belly up and back to kind of keep that core nice and strong. You should feel a little bit more of that upper core when you do that. Then even just sitting there, if you just shift your weight back on your sit bones a little bit, kicks it in just a little bit more. That's what happens when you shift your weight into your heels and you have that core activated. So when you're doing that, you're going to get more toning in the tummy area and inch loss because you're activating the core while you're walking. Then that kind of leads to the next one. Once that foundation's there, is I said reach for the sky, but it's thinking of a string pulling your head. A lot of times we just sit like this, right? We're sitting, we're talking with people, they're just all hunched over like this. Well, it's not just a shove the shoulders back to get the ribs up, because that uses neck muscles, and that's going to actually be a little more invasive. But if you get that tummy up and in, and then just think of that string gently pulling your head out of your shoulders and your rib cage out of your belly, it naturally gets your shoulders back in alignment without you having to shove it back. And it takes away some of that neck tension. And again, shifting that weight back kind of automatically sets that. So a lot of times when I'm feeling neck tension while I'm walking, I just shift back, my core kicks in, my ribs go up, and that takes care of it. Because I'm getting all tense, maybe thinking about something that's stressful, and I need to take a big breath and shift back. And always breathing. Breathing is really good. I always keep breathing. I always check with my clients. If I forget to cue you to breathe, please breathe. Big, deep breaths, because opening up your rib cage this way, because you're now in good alignment, you'll be able to breathe better and be able to get more oxygen, which is obviously going to make you feel better. And everything. So it's just a couple things that you can do to really activate this rib to hip area before you even start walking. Actually, you can just kind of get in that alignment and then start walking. a lot of times I tell people, you know, you have a set of muscles that help hold you upright, and then you have another set of muscles that move your limbs here, your arms and your legs. If we don't keep these muscles in our spine, in our core to help hold us up, these other muscles are doing double duty, and these muscles kind of get tight sometimes, and so then we get pain, or we get weird postural things going on. So your goal is to try to strengthen these core muscles, and you sometimes get fascia adhesions because we're like this all the time with this fascia in your lower belly, lower back is not getting activated well. So you may get pain, or it might be just stiff. Like you stretch in the morning because you've slept, and you just need to stretch those muscles. That's what we're doing when we pull belly up and in. Well, now you just activated that fascia at your lower back. And then when you get those ribs up by thinking of that string, you just activated the fascia down here along your tummy. So just some things to help you stretch and feel good, let alone lose inches. Then we go into no big toe. And, of course, you're going to be walking. Your big toe is going to be contacting in your shoe. But it's back to that tracking your knee out. Because just sitting there, if you just push your weight into your big toe, your knees come in. You can't help but do that. But if you think to shift it more to the heel and off big toe, maybe even lift the big toe right now, your knee's just tracked out. And you activated the attachments at your knee. You'll get rid of knee pudge this way. Toes forward and no big toe. No weight on the big toe. That's going to help get rid of some of that knee pudge there. And again, back to protecting the joints. So as you're walking, of course, you have to roll off your feet. So you can't lift up your big toes. You could, but it'd be a little bit awkward. But if you just think to shift the weight to the heels and off big toes, so you're not like walking bow-legged or anything crazy like that. It's just a slight shift again that makes a huge difference. Just little tiny movements that make a huge difference in alignment. Then the very last tip was about jazzing your hands, and that's really stretching those fingers from thumb to pinky, and you flip it forward, and you're walking, and you just let it swing, but it's straight elbow. So you're just kind of walking. You're already in alignment. Remember, your belly's up and in, your ribs are nice and tall, your weight's in your heels. Even just sitting here, just kind of shift back into your sit bones. And then you can take it up another notch with a little bit more cardio, a little bit more upper back area by pulling at the elbow. So you just kind of bending the elbow and pulling for like maybe 4 swings, and then swing jazz, really stretching. And when I pull, I like to do what's called a bear claw. It's folding the fingers, stretching the thumbs, kind of like rawr, like you're gonna be a bear. And when you pull that way, you get a little bit more lat activation, and you also trim the triceps. Yay! Wow. Bye. Back fat, and bye-bye waving those jiggle wiggle arms, right? So just flipping it like this, even if you don't do the little pull at the elbow while you're walking. I'll do this just for a period of time, and then I'll just relax, but always palms center or forward, never palms back. Sometimes people hunch and they pull their palms are actually to the back. We don't want that gorilla arms, we call it. We want to get the shoulders back naturally, and that flipping the hands forward and really stretching will help burn the back fat away. So those are just a few tips that can really make a difference. Let me just share really quickly. One of the reasons this is important health-wise is because we tend to slouch. You have a couple ducts back here, D-U-C-T, not D-U-C-K, in your where your lymph drains into your circulatory system. Well, if you're hunched, you can imagine if you kink your garden hose, it's gonna work, but not as optimally. Whereas when you get those ribs up using your core muscles, not just shoving shoulders back, like I was saying earlier, like that string pulling you up, pulling that belly, and you activate those latissimus dorsi muscles, which helps optimize that drainage there. These muscles also burn blood sugar, so this is really good for hormonal imbalances. It's also good for helping lower blood sugar. So just getting those ribs up can help you feel better, and that's why walking makes us feel good anyway, because we're pumping the lymph and getting the trash out of our system. But just imagine if you optimize it by getting your ribs up. Again, don't be real invasive with it. Just think of that string pulling up like Eliza Doolittle on My Fair Lady with the book on your head, and you're just really trying to stretch up naturally, and you'll feel a lot better and get a lot more out of your walk.
That is amazing. Do you guys see why I love hearing from Trish so much? I love this. This is so practical. I was thinking right now, Trish, I know this is for walking, but can I use these, because I was just already feeling better and more open as I was following along with you sitting here. Can we use these in a chair? When we're sitting in front of the computer, if we just need to open our breathing up, I mean, does this do anything for us when we're sitting?
Oh, definitely. A lot of times, because I do a lot, I mean, it's kind of funny, I'm a fitness trainer, but I sit at a computer a lot. Go figure. Oh, yeah. But I'm great, because like everybody else, I'll get in these really weird positions, You get comfortable. Sometimes my feet don't quite touch the floor depending what chair I'm in, so I'm tucking a foot up. So I am not in best alignment. And I'll start feeling it, especially if I have a long day where I'm maybe, starting a program or answering a lot of questions. So what I will do is get my feet flat on the floor, my knees straight out from my hips and not tucking my feet. Again, feet are forward, even though they're just pressing into the floor lightly. If you can't quite touch the floor, you can just press with your ball joint, like if this was the foot, which is but if you can touch with the heel, that's even better. So you take we call these mitten chops. So it's the fingers pressed together like you're going to stick them in a mitten, but really stretch the thumbs. You're going to take the chop side right just at a comfortable place on your thigh there. And the first thing I'll do is pull that belly up and back in a little bit. Then do a big inhale. Really stretch those thumbs. Exhale, press into your thighs to help you stretch your ribs up. So you're really trying to stretch this rib to hip as you're pressing into your thighs. Shake the head no for no neck tension. Another big inhale while you're still pressing. Another big exhale all the way. And then when you release it, keep your ribs up. So you release, but you don't drop your ribs. I'll do that a few times to just kind of clear the cobwebs out of my brain and you can do some shoulder rolls too with that jazz. Flip the palms forward, really stretching fingers, and just shoulder up and back. 2 and back, 3 and 4. So just doing a couple things like that can help relieve some of that neck tension. If you're sitting, whether you're sitting at the table doing something, getting ready for supper or whatever, or sitting at your computer, it's just a good way to relieve some of that tension. And get a nice big inhale, exhale, and oxygenate your body. Clears the brain, and you'll feel better too, not quite so sore.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I feel like we got just the biggest treat by having you do this. So, and even for me, I'm a reader. I do, I read well and I love our magazine. I love reading it. But this whole come to life thing, this was perfect for you because there's something very powerful about seeing you model it and then me following along. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with our community. You guys in the community, you are going to love this. And now, Trish, I got to have you come back and do this again. This was very powerful, and as simple as it sounds, I can see why you lost the 3/4 inch. And just already I was feeling it, and I was already hurting a little. Don't tell anybody I said that. That's a really bad sign. So anyway, thank you, Trish, so much. You guys, you need to go to her website. She's on our website too. She guest posts and is in our magazine, but definitely check her out on beyouthfulandfit.com, right? .com. You've got to see all the tips she brings with her T-Tap. She's always got programs going. She's got her classes going, her video classes. Definitely jump in and join Trish on her next offering because her stuff is good. Thank you so much, Trish, for doing this today. You are such a blessing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.